Are you a technician who wants to set yourself apart? Then the Trusted Technician podcast is for you. I'm Derek Hoferter, coach and trainer at SBE. And on this podcast, we will have experienced HVAC coaches and trainers, as well as top performing technicians, all sharing their tips and strategies to help you be more successful. Welcome back to another episode of the Trusted Technician podcast. I'm really excited because we have a return guest. We've got Curtis from Patrick Riley, and I hear from a lot of people that Curtis was one of their favorite episodes. Curtis, you may not know this, but I actually will oftentimes play your episode when I'm teaching classes to technicians, and they always enjoy hearing it. And Curtis, you were number one in our rankings last year. So Curtis, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So if people want to hear kind of your background story and why you got into being a tech, they can go back and listen to the previous episode. We don't need to do that again, right? Because we went through that. And so I encourage everyone to check out your first episode with me. But Curtis, let's just dive into it. We're here in quarter one of the year. For many technicians, this is a tough quarter to go through. It's full on shoulder season, demand's low. So walk me through a little bit of what it's like being a tech this time of year.
Well, this time of year is a time of year that really makes you sharpen up your skills. All I can say is it gets tough for all of us, even the guys on top. But I remember the mindset that we carry is what we'll produce. And so even though times get tough, if we continue to stay with our process, everything always works out. So don't get discouraged, because you never know. It's that one call a day or that one call in a week that can change everything for you. And so if you continue with your process and always be on point, when that right call comes up with all the opportunities that line up, you'll be there and ready to accept it. But if you're in your head, you'll miss it. So it's really important to stay on point during these trying times when it's slow.
Yeah. And when it's slow, if we kind of talk strategy here a little bit. So when it's slow, it means I have fewer opportunities. I have fewer calls. But, that doesn't mean that your life expenses reduced, right? The rent stays the same, the vehicle, so you still kind of need a certain level of income even when it's slow. So how does the strategy shift when you know you're going to get fewer opportunities?
Slow down, right? Really slow down. So here's the thing. A lot of times when we're going out, we're doing maintenances and it's, heating or cooling season, the unit's up and running. We can check everything out. But as we kind of get there where it's hard to do a heat or a cool check because the weather's just weird and it's not, enough to give us a heat load or a cool load. When we slow down, so fine, we're not focusing on the unit, but we have the heart there. What about the blood vessels? What about the ductwork? What about the insulation in the attic? Do they have those are great times to handle those things, because now they're not focusing on, hey, we have the unit plus those things. So it's less for them to digest, and it's easier to go through and get things like insulation, fixing the ductwork, because now they're not overwhelmed, but they have the unit to take care of as well.
When you say slow down, I completely agree with you that if we're treating these opportunities the same way as a call when it's in the middle of the summer, right? What are we hurrying to try to get to? There's fewer opportunities, right? So kind of take advantage of it. So walk me through, how long do you spend on a visit, on a maintenance visit, and kind of walk me through a little bit of the proportionalness of your time, maybe right. I'm going to spend this amount of time here and here, and kind of give us the picture of what does slowing down even look like?
All right. So I always try to make sure that when I get to the call, I get well acquainted with the customer before I even start talking about units. I try to get acquainted with them, find out how long they've lived in the home, and find out a little bit about them in a way where you can really get close and bond with that customer and build a little bit of trust before you even go in to the unit and get into, hey, do you have any of the paperwork, and find out all the things that have been done. Find out what the whole picture is. Just slow down. And when you're looking at things, take your time to check everything out, because, the technicians that don't open HVAC coils because it's hard and it's got pookie on it. Right now is the time, even, during the summer. That's where the money's at, is things that don't get open often. If there's screws that look like they've never been opened from install, it's a 7-year-old unit, there's something going on in there, I promise you. And until you actually take everything apart and see it, the thing is customers these days, they get a little leery with us saying, hey, this is broken, yada, yada. So what I try to do is when I go with my customer with the videos, I try to make sure I have my meter with the readings on it. I try to make sure I show them that my sniffer is actually going off so they can see the equipment telling the story. Or if, my gauges are on there and it's showing that we have problems with the refrigerant, with the instrument. If you use instruments, there's a lot of things that we can use. We have infrared cameras to show leakage from a unit in the attic. There's a lot of things that if you use instruments, the customers are going to trust instruments more than they are us, just because of what we live in and what we have to navigate through. There's a lot of not honest technicians out there. And so building that trust and slowing down and using instruments helps the customer to have that trust in us when they can see that we're taking the time. It takes time to hook the equipment up and do all those things. But if you do it, that's where you build that trust, slowing down and being able to hook up all your gauges and all your meters and take the videos. It takes longer than just blowing through, hey, you have a bad cap and a dirty coil, do it. But if you go through the emotions and show them all the videos of what it took to get that information, they'll trust you more and they'll be more willing to go through and have the work done.
Yeah. How long? 2 hours? What's a good amount of time do you think in your mind for a maintenance visit to do everything
I'm
right?
usually anywhere from an hour and a half to 3.5 hours. It depends on what we have going on at the call. How much engagement do I have? All of those things kind of play into it, but I'm usually at most of my calls no less than an hour and a half. And if you're doing everything that you should on a maintenance call, if you're getting done in 30 minutes, you're not doing your job. And if you're not doing your job, you're not going to get the results you're looking for. So you've got to spend the time and put the work in if you want to have that success. You just have to, an hour and a half minimum. If you're less than that, you're missing things. There's just no way you can open up everything and look at everything and record everything in 30 minutes and do it with, enough precision to be able to transfer that over to the customer so they can understand. I do things like I'll take the supply registers off and I'll show the customer how the drywall and the boot isn't sealed and how they're getting dust in the house from within the supply vents. I'll open up the return and show them how their start collar isn't sealed and they're pulling in dust and insulation from the attic right to their evap coil. I go through and educate my customers because a lot of times what I hear when I go out is I say, oh yeah, I know it's dirty. We live in Arizona. I said, you're exactly right. But do you know what dirty is going to cost for you? Until you tell them, hey, look, when you get a dirty coil and dirty blower wheel, you don't get good airflow, the pressures rise, leaks happen to occur in coils, compressors fail when all these things happen. So dirty means it's going to cost you a lot of money in repairs. Just so that you're aware of that, if you let them know, then they can make that decision. But just dirty isn't enough. You need to help customers understand what dirty means. And when they realize that, oh, this is going to cost me X amount of money in repairs, then you can start having those conversations. And that's when you get, things to come through and they start to see why we're talking about dirty. They understand we're not just trying to upsell them. We're truly trying to take care of their equipment and navigate expensive repairs that, we can avoid.
Yeah. So when it is slow, when it is the tough times and you're plugging through the tough times, what do you think are the biggest opportunities? You mentioned insulation.
Attic insulation. So a lot of what I sell right now is, we have the max for us is a 5-year maintenance program. So I'll sell 5-year maintenance programs. I'll sell duct test and sills, full system cleaning duct test and sills on units that are 5 or 6 years old. Attic insulation. We just started doing a vacuum seal, they call it, where we vacuum out all the old insulation, seal all the penetration points into the home from the attic, seal that all off. And then obviously we're starting at ground zero and we add up for, at least, 13 to 15 inches of insulation. Indoor air quality. It's a great time for indoor air quality. Checking the ducts to see if there's any hot spots. You can, get ducts reworked and enlarged or reworked ductwork to help. Because when they have that going on in the heat of the summer, we're so busy, we can barely get to it. That's a good time to slow down and ask them, is everything cool in the evening? Just go over all of the performance of their unit. There's usually something they're not happy with if you ask all the questions. But you got to ask the questions and get engagement.
So nothing you mentioned on your list pretty much had to do with the unit itself.
Right. Well, because the unit always comes naturally if it's time. I mean, it's like a piece of fruit. It grows and it blossoms and there comes time to pick it. But there's only one time every 8 to 12 or 10 to 15 years that happens. So in the meantime, we got to groom the leaves and everything else around it while we're waiting for this big luscious fruit to bloom and get ready. But yeah.
Would you say then that maybe that's kind of a mistake that technicians fall into, or a trap that they fall into a little bit? Is they're so unit like
They have their
parts,
blinders on.
motors?
Too much focus is put on the unit. Not saying that the unit doesn't need to, but the thing is, insulation, ductwork, all these other things, they truly affect the performance, good or bad, of the unit. If we have lack of insulation and leaky ductwork and they're dirty, it's not going to perform well. So it all goes together. I mean, we have a heart, but the heart doesn't do any good if we don't have blood vessels and veins to pump the blood. So we all get focused on the unit, but the focus gets lost sometimes because there's more than just the unit to make the whole system work.
Yeah. As we're talking here, we're beginning of March. We're in Phoenix. It's pretty nice out. Like yesterday, I had the windows open. I think it was 75 degrees. It rained a little bit. It's nice and cool. But you were telling me you had a pretty good day yesterday.
Yesterday was a pretty decent day. I can't argue.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to get into specifics on numbers and things like that, but how many calls did you have, and kind of if we just analyze like one day?
I had 3 calls yesterday. I actually had a guy riding with me. I was training. My first call was about an hour and 20 minutes away, and it was in a retirement community. And the customer had purchased a water filtration system in November from the plumbing department. She had purchased the home in September. She had just got there. She had to fix a roof leak and had to do a few things. And she had been told that her unit was older from her realtor. And she was hoping to wait a year or two, and went into all of that. And within 10 minutes of that call, she was like, I'm going to need financing, huh? Because we opened up the coil and it was horrible. It was full, completely dirty. The coil it was a 22 or 23-year-old train unit, and it was a vertical in her garage. So she was able to see everything without video, just right in front of her face. So we went through the options of that, and then we got up in the attic to check some things out in the attic, and the insulation was a little low. So we got to talking to her about the insulation and how we can remove and replace that and put new insulation in, and how we can seal the attic. And we got into all that. We're doing an I-Wave, some indoor air quality, and she wanted to get her ducts pressure tested, sealed, and cleaned as well. And then she wanted to go ahead and go through with everything. She ended up doing a Bosch variable capacity unit, and that's actually going in right now as we speak. And they'll be there Tuesday to finish up the rest. But she was really happy. I mean, overall, it was a $43,000 ticket. As we were finishing up paperwork, electrical showed up. We took the time, though, to explain everything to her. We built that trust, and she loved us. Electrical showed up. She, did her inspection, and the panel, the realtor had even told her, and she didn't tell me, that the panel might need to be replaced at some point. Electrical came in and said, yeah, you need a new panel. And she told the electrician, hey, Curtis says I need it. Tell him we'll add it on the financing. It was amazing. So the trust was there just because of how she was talking so highly of me. She trusted me to give me the authority to say, oh yeah, which I didn't abuse it, but she truly needed it. And so, we were almost at a $45,000 total company revenue on that job. And it was a great success story. And it all started with building trust and taking our time and slowing down. It was just a policy tune-up.
Yeah, it's such a good example here of maybe hope and encouragement to others, because they just dread this time of the year, and we just have to survive it. But for you, it's not a survive, right, man? You want to, you're still going through it, and you want to thrive.
You have to. And so here's the thing. A lot of us, let's be real, February, October, slowest months in the heating cooling industry. It just is. But here's the problem. They used to be slow months for me as well, because I would go into the same mindset as everyone. Oh, it's a slow month. Oh, it's going to be slow. Well, guess what? It will be if you say that. But if you're like, hey, it might be a little bit thin on calls, but I'm still going to keep selling and keep doing my thing, that'll happen. And so I really believe in affirming what I want to happen. And, that's just how it goes. Yesterday, we went to our second call. It was a 7-year-old unit. Compressor wasn't kicking on. It was a bad capacitor. We put a capacitor in. Then we went through, and after I got a new capacitor in, we checked the start amps, and it was way over amp in. It was a 7-year-old unit. So we went ahead and put in a hard start kit. And just because I was there and got it up and going, I said, it was a condo, 2 or 3 story upstairs. I opened up the air handler. I said, I don't want you to break down. So he goes, oh yeah. I said, so I'll kind of give you a tune up right now. We checked everything out up there. It was actually pretty clean. It was a older couple from Canada, and they kind of come and go. And so everything was pretty clean. The unit was 7. So I did pull up the unit. They'd had a part warranty. So we ended up selling them a labor warranty, a 5-year maintenance, a hard start kit, capacitor. It was a $4,000 ticket, and we were there for an hour, hour and a half. I kind of turned it into a fix it, tune up kind of call. And then we left there and we went over to Krista's mom's house. She had
One of the
just bought a
coaches here?
couple, and unfortunately that unit was really old, and it was actually, we opened it up to do the tune up, and it was leaking R22 refrigerant on the indoor coil because it was a vertical. So we ended up having to get her set up to get her unit replaced as well, and she's going to get her ducts sealed and cleaned as well. So it was all in all a full day. We got home about 11 o'clock, but I mean, it was almost a $75,000 day. I'll stay out till 10 o'clock every night during this time of year to make that kind of money. But it's just, going through and putting in the work.
Yeah. So one day in the middle of the slowest time of the year, $75,000 day, could slow down, build trust, be thorough. That's basically just what you did, right?
Right. That's what you have. That's the only way to survive in these times. If you're frustrated and getting in and out of your calls and they're not going to buy anything anyway, and in and out 30, 45 minutes. Why waste your time if you're there? Make the best of it. Go get what you can.
Let's talk about that real quick here. Maybe as we're starting to wrap up here, because I don't want to keep you from another $75,000 because you're sitting here talking with me for too long. So I know you're giving up a lot of opportunity to get here and share with us. So we really appreciate it. But I've been hearing this a lot right now from around the country, different techs, different managers, service managers. No one wants to spend money right now on their system. No one wants to buy. It's the economy.
Limiting beliefs.
Yeah, go for it. Attack it. Go for it.
That's limiting beliefs. And I know it's hard and we get discouraged. You just got to grind a little harder and you got to ignore that. Don't think that, because if you do, you're going to set it in your mind and then you get home 30, 45 minutes, get in and out. They're not going to buy anything anyway. No, if they're not buying, it means you're not building value. You're not slowing down. You're not helping them see the whole picture. Because when you slow down and you share with them the need that they have that they didn't know about, knowledge is power. So when you can share with them really what they have going on, everybody can finance. You got to build the value. If there's no trust, if you haven't, built up the value in that, that means you need to continue build that trust with your customer. And there's times where I'm just not getting it, and I'll have to, go away, look at some other, and come at it another way, because sometimes they're not understanding it the way I'm trying to explain to them. So it doesn't mean you have to stop. Just regroup, take a minute, go back and reapproach it and explain it a different way, because we all learn and do things different. And if the customer's confused, they're always going to say no. The confused mind will always say no. But if you can explain it to them and they understand, like when I take off the supply registers and they can see the gaps and stuff, I'm going to tell you, 80% of the time they almost feel dumb not getting the work done, because now that they're basically allowing a problem to happen, and it just doesn't work how our psyche works, right? And so most of the time, just because now they totally understand it, it's a yes, because the value's there, they understand
everything that
it.
you're saying, is kind of tying together too, because if you're not slowing down, allowing yourself time, you're not going to have that time to step away and regroup and try a different approach. You're going to be like, well, I guess that was my shot, and now I'll just wrap up and I'll get out of here.
Correct. And let me tell you what, you can't give up easy. You got to keep grinding. Just because they tell you no, that just, to me, what that means is, hey, I didn't build enough value. They don't quite understand what I'm trying to tell them, or they obviously be saying, yes, let's get the work done. So then I start looking at, where did I fall short with explaining what's really going on here with this customer? I think about it, and then I go back and approach it again after they've had a minute to calm down. Or I've calmed down, or whatever the case may be. But once they can truly understand what they have, then they can make an educated decision. And you can't be pushy about it, but help them understand enough to know that, hey, this is really important to get done.
Nice. Curtis, final question. You were number one in the SB technician rankings last year. Are you going to repeat this year?
Justin, I'm coming for you, baby. Absolutely. It's going to be great competition. And I do see myself being number one. Sorry, Justin, but it's going to be a grind. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I'm definitely going for number one. Well, if you're not in it to win it, what's the point? I'm here to be the best I can be. And, whoever gets number one this year, I give them a congratulations. Even for right now, it's good competition. It's great to encourage us to always be on our best. So absolutely.
I love it.
Number one.
I love it. All right, Curtis, time to get back to work. Go.
All right.
Go back to work. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Derek.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Trusted Technician Podcast. If you would like to learn more about SBE, you can find us online at sbeodyssey.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would appreciate it if you would leave us a review. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.